Hi everyone, welcome to the Queer Prism. My name is Pepe. I'm taking over from CJ and LJ today as we commemorate the week, the Transgender Awareness Week. And this week usually leads to the Transgender Day of Remembrance, where we honor and celebrate transgender people from across the world who have been murdered, who have been violated for being trans or non-binary or gender non-conforming persons. This particular day is marked on 20th, and 20th November is the day that in 1998, Rita, a transgender woman, was murdered, and it caused a lot of uproar globally. And for that purpose, we celebrate that day and we honor our own who have passed on. With me, there are three amazing people, amazing humans, who are my panelists. I'll be asking them some questions. And this is really for educational purposes, but also in honor of every transgender person across the globe, across Africa, and particularly in Uganda amidst the Anti-Homosexuality Act. And we'll be learning more. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'll start on my right. Please introduce yourself. Tell us your pronoun. Mine is he, him, his. And what you do, briefly. Thank you. Over to you.
All right. Thank you, Pepe. My name's Jay Broderick, or Tita. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a trans rights activist, and and also a Squela fellow, pioneer, I can say. So I'm happy to be here at Queer Prism, and hope we have a very beautiful conversation.
We will.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you. My name is Arianna. I'm Tony. Trans activist. I work with Trans is Beautiful Uganda. And my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm happy to be here to see you all.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ruby. I'm a disability rights activist and a queer activist, a Yali fellow and a Squela alumni. Squela alumni is in the house. I'm very excited and happy to be here, being the fact that we've all been in closed doors and under our beds. So very, very excited. Yes.
All right. We live in a country and in a world where two binary, gender or sexes are celebrated and has become a norm. Help us understand what it means to be non-binary or gender non-conforming, and what it means to be trans. I'll start with you, Ruby.
So, being gender non-conforming, or sometimes we may say gender fluid, is literally being either both male and female, identifying as both. So pronouns, most times I use they, them, but in some incidences, you may find someone referring me to he. So, and that's still fine by me, but not everybody may identify as that. Some will prefer to be identified as they, them, she, or some will just prefer having they, them. And it's very confusing for a lot of Ugandans that I've come by when I say I'm gender fluid or I'm gender non-binary. They're like, huh? I'm like, yeah. They're like, what does that mean? And then I go through all this explaining what that refers to, and that it's not the ordinary sex that you know, male and female, but I'm neither nor. At the same time, I'm both. Yes.
For me, I think being trans is identifying and living differently from the sex you're assigned at birth. For example, a baby can be assigned female at birth, but can identify and live as male, and vice versa.
I often hear people talking about gender identity, sexual identity, sexual orientation, gender expression. These are things I know that the audience grapples with and would like to understand what it means what does it mean when someone talks of gender identity, and what are the examples of gender identities, and then when someone talks about gender expression, like what does that mean? Give us examples, and how different is it from sexual or sexuality identity or sexual orientation?
I will say for me, what makes it easier for me to explain to others when you talk of gender identity is what an individual may identifies as. And for sexual expression could be what the individual is attracted to, the kind of human being they are attracted to. So my identity, I may identify as a gender non-conforming person, and I will be attracted to a woman or a lesbian. Yes. Or I may identify as bisexual because I'm not attracted to the same gender. I'm not attracted to another gender non-conforming person. I'm attracted to the opposite of what I identify as. So I will say that I'm bisexual. So it's sometimes a bit confusing for a lot of people, and we learn as we go, because there's a time I was in a room and I was with some amazing proud legends, and they only say, you know, when the movement was beginning, they had gay and lesbians, and at this point we have a plus
butch,
yes,
or effeminate,
or stud,
or sissy,
or a stud.
Yeah.
And now we have all these other pansexuals. We have all these other identities and expressions that people have added on to the spectrum. So I usually use that to make it much more simpler for the whole explanation. But I don't know how the rest would what information they would share on that.
For me, I think gender identity is just what someone says they are, how they feel, not what you say they are.
Yeah.
And then I think gender expression is just like for example, I can express myself as a man, yeah. But also, these things come with also pressure from society. You look like a boy, but you're acting like a girl. Like you're forced, maybe because of certain reasons, for your security or something, you're forced to like express yourself as a man. Yeah? That would mostly also go for people who identify as a female. Yeah, I mean women. And then sexual orientation is just romantic attraction.
Yes.
Yeah, like who I'm attracted to, or what I'm attracted to. Oh, okay. That and then there's, is it sexual expression or gender expression? Because
Gender expression.
yes, also comes with like dress code, speech, and all those things, and maybe like what society puts out there, like a man should drive maybe a big car, and then that one is a man. Or ladies should drive smaller cars and all that. Like you can express your gender in whichever way, but it does not. Gender expression does not establish your gender identity, what you identify as. Anyone can wear anything they want. For me, I believe clothes don't have gender. You can wear anything that you want. Yeah,
as long as you're comfortable.
As long as you're comfortable and you feel good. It doesn't really have
the
to
feel
be.
good is very important.
Yeah,
Feel
like,
good, and you feel
yeah.
sexy,
So
and
I think that's it. But mostly, people tie sexual orientation to gender identity. Those are two different things. I am a transgender man. Yes, personally, I am attracted to women. Whether transgender women or cisgender women.
But they were.
Yeah. But a trans person, a transgender man can also be bisexual. He can also be heterosexual, like I am.
Or
He can
pansexual.
also be pansexual or
Asexual.
asexual, actually. Yeah, you know?
Not experimenting with anything sexual at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, that's what I could add.
Okay. You've talked about the definitions and given us some examples. We are currently in a country that criminalizes these mentioned identities.
Yeah.
The country right now has the latest Anti-Homosexuality Act 2023, which is being challenged, of course, in court. But there are lots of provisions in the law, and some of it is in the beginning before they removed it, but it still stays in people's minds. It's about identity of if someone suspects based on the way you're dressed, a person can conclude that you're homosexual.
Yeah.
And then they can easily violate you or report you to the police or anything like that. And we've seen this, and we've documented, that sort of mistaken identity or suspicion cases. Perceptions, yeah. The title of the law is Anti-Homosexuality Law 2023, or Act rather, 2023. However, we know that in experience, in most Ugandans' minds, they think being homosexual is sort of cross-dressing.
Yes.
They think transgender people are homosexual.
Yeah.
So for them, a very masculine presenting, person assigned male at birth cannot be homosexual. It's the effeminate males who are homosexual.
Yeah.
Which is a confusion that society has put in because of gender roles.
Yeah.
And it has created this whole backlash towards transgender people. Please share with us what your experience has been. I know you have a whole lifetime experience as a trans person and a non-binary person, but taking just this year, the way it has been hectic, the way it has been very sending people underground, what have been your experiences under this law, but also generally in life as Arianna, moving on the streets, maybe staying in your house, your landlord, maybe your neighbors and things like that. There's a strategic response team report that came out, and we saw that most of the violations of evictions, physical attack, blackmail, sexual assault were mainly towards transgender people. But I would like to hear directly from you. And I think if each of you would at least say something about the violations that trans people and non-binary people face.
Thank you, Pepe. My experience from January to this month has been very terrible. Traumatized all the time, depressed, mentally not fine, but people think that I'm okay. In February, I remember, is it February 28th, I got attacked. People
just pause there for anyone who's listening. We would like to put out a trigger warning that some of you might be traumatized with the experiences that my panelists might be sharing. Just be aware of that.
So I was attacked. People came into my home and started questioning me. Oh, we've been seeing you on social media. We saw people saying that you give them hormones to transition. You've been guiding them to turn into what they are not. And it wasn't easy for me. Then I'm shaking. Remember, that disturbs me.
Sorry about that. It's okay, we understand that it's heavy.
Yeah.
If you still want to share, we can come back.
Yeah, let me share. It's okay. So it was a cool evening when I was in my house alone. quiet, enjoying my day. People come in. They pulled the door and entered, and they started asking me, is this Arianna or the Javan we know from Facebook? And the one they've been talking about, the one we've seen on a video, because I had no idea that someone shared a video with some national TV. They did an interview and then they questioned her, how did you turn, how did you transition to become who you are right now? And then she shared my names, my locations, my social media accounts. So when they entered the house, they questioned me. They started checking everything in the house, beating me up while forcing me to say things that are really... Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Thank you for being brave enough to share.
Yeah.
We know it's not the full story, but it shows the grave need for transport to be protected in this country and across the world. And I hope you feel encouraged that people listening to you might identify with you and they might reach out to comfort you, but also from us just right now on this show and Queer Prism, would like you to know that we're in solidarity with you and we'll find ways of helping you overcome the trauma, or at least manage the trauma. Yeah. Ruby?
This has been like a very, very, very difficult year. Starting off with pictures that were circulating. And then I had to change my hair. And then in October, the most traumatizing and the most difficult moment for me was in October. I had to leave my house because my landlady reached out to me. I was not even in the country. I was back and forth. My landlady reaches out to me, tells me all the neighbors are calling me, and they've been calling me since the whole conversation of the AHA started, and telling me I have to ask you to leave. I know you're a good tenant, you pay on time, I don't have any problem with you. I actually like you because you're the only tenant I've never had an issue with, but you have to evacuate. And I asked her for a bit of time because I wasn't in the country. I would be coming back and I would leave. So, and everyone knows last minute things. When you're moving into a new house, you have to pay extra months. I didn't have that kind of money. I only had my monthly. So I had to look for the funds. So I get the money. I look for a new house. I come to the house. I pack. So she calls me and advises me, you cannot leave the compound at this time, at daytime, because I think some people in the neighborhood got notice that you're leaving. Try to leave at night, it's not safe. So we load things and we just leave them in the compound, and I stay in the house until around 9 p.m. As we're getting out, because I was seated in, the truck, but at the front seat, and all these people with local shops had gathered by the road, and they were shouting all these horrible, painful words. Sitani evudde mu kitundu kyaffe, kisirani ekyo. Like even blaming me for not making money during that period. But you imagine, I'm seated with a group because I asked movers to help me, and I was with this company, and these people have know nothing about me or who I am or but just simply because of how I dress. That is all that just caused all this. But it also came because of, these were people I was seeing every day. I was buying items from their shops. But when this
Did they return the
conversation,
money?
they didn't.
Since you're certain and
You know, they never returned the money, but the things that there's even one lady I saw amidst, and actually I broke down in the car. There was this one woman who came to me begging to do laundry for me to survive with her child. And I didn't need someone to wash my laundry because I stay alone. I do my laundry myself. And I gave her the job just because she said she needed to feed her child and she had this whole story. And she was standing in this crowd shouting. I literally broke down because for me at that point, I'm like, you're taking my kindness and my humanity for granted. You came to me and it had nothing to do with how I'm expressing myself or how I dress. And at that moment, because I was giving you money to do laundry, and now you're standing amidst these people, they said so many things. And it has affected me in a way that even now, where I moved to, I don't shop from my neighborhood. I don't talk to anyone in the neighborhood apart from one gentleman who I send around to go buy things for me. I only wait for a car to park outside my gate to get in and leave. Like I've gotten phobia for anyone around me or anyone near my home, because if it got to that point, I can imagine someone can do something worse to me while I'm getting into the house. So it's not been easy at all. Yeah.
Yeah, and the statistics that we had under the SRT, we documented in the report it's 180 evictions, but in the actual documentation for everything, they were ranking in 200s plus.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is just evictions based on suspicion. But something there about your landlord.
Yeah, she showed me the messages and the tenants even on the block that we were on. Were one of them
seemed like she was supportive, and she tried to get you out of the place in a safe way.
And simply because she has done a lot of work around HIV, and she has met a lot of queer people around her work, and it was the first thing she told me when she met me. So that is why I would say I'm one of the lucky ones. As much as I faced that, because I can only imagine had I come back from where I was, and I think it's an ordinary day, and gone to the shop, anything could have happened to me.
Terrible.
But regardless, it still has left me traumatized and triggered at any one time. Even when I'm moving in the neighborhood, just getting into the car, and someone is calling someone from a distance. I think they're shouting at me, and then I turn, and then I'm shaking. So it hasn't left me still the same. Yeah.
Utita, are you strong enough to share?
Yes.
Okay.
And I got used. I'm used.
You're used to violence.
I'm used. Anytime, anywhere. So, for me, I can say from last year, things have been bad from the time Smack got issues with my affiliation with Squella and all that. And plus there's beautiful photos we take and post. So yeah. Though I'll just be brief. This year, because of the bill before it became the act, but that's when my neighbors, not immediate but a little bit like I can say 2 kilometers away from where I stay, because I've stayed where I live now for like 8 years, because I got that place when I was at university. So that's why I stayed, and then I just maintained because the landlady is a good person. But then it's last year that I came out to her when these things came up, and we all saw how the bill was, how crazy it was. I had to talk to her one evening. I found out, okay, she's never around, yeah? She's At the time she's not there, but the evening is when I got to her. I was like, Mama, I need to talk to you about something. Of course, she knows my family. She knows my sisters, my mom. So I told her I'm actually a transgender person. She was like, oh, I was actually surprised. I just threw it to her face. She was like, oh, okay. I'm like, yes, I am. I'm just telling you because I need you to know before someone else tells you. Yeah. And then she's like, oh, your family knows? I'm like, yes, they all know. They support you? I'm like, yes. And that was it. And then she told me, oh, I'm rushing somewhere. Have a good evening. And that was it. So she's been protecting me. Like, she keeps on changing gate men because of me. She can fire even maids. If she hears anything, she fires them. She gets another one. Just like that. Cause and then now she tells me I shouldn't really move at daytime because daytime is not a good time for us to move. She's like, if you want to go somewhere, let's go in the evening. It's dark, nobody can see you. And also because I pass, yeah? So it was like in May, I think, one morning. It was in May in the morning. I was going to get breakfast. For the first time, I don't even really do breakfast, by the way. I don't know what made me go. These guys came for me from nowhere, and there were 3 guys. They knew me before I had started my medical transitioning. Of course, they were shouting the normal words that we hear. Oh, you're evil. Something like that. So they hit me like from nowhere. I was numb. I could not do anything at that moment. Then I was also dropped in a trench. But the people that were around there were like, no, you guys, we know this person. We know this person. How do you even tell that this guy is like, you people? Really? So those guys were like, no, you cannot even hit someone who's just walking. He has not done anything to you. That is how I was picked. Put on a bike. Do you think I bought breakfast? I went home.
Sounds like school book. Did they take your lunch money, your breakfast money?
No. It was so fast. So I went home. I couldn't like talk to anyone. I couldn't speak. I was still numb. And after some, the first person that came into my mind was like, Pepe, Frank. But then I sent Pepe a message. I'm like, I've been hit. Pepe is like, I've just landed in the US. Frank is like, I'm in Canada. But there are people you can reach out to help you, to support you. Because by that time now, you know when you're hit, your body is like still hot, you don't feel anything.
Yeah.
After like some time, I literally couldn't even go to my fridge to pick drinking water. I couldn't walk because my head was injured, then my knees, my legs, then part of my rib cage. Yeah, of course they dropped me there. I bled a little bit. Then that was it. But these are things that we expect as transgender people. Yeah. Like we're a target. I don't know. Like we're the ones.
You sound like you're normalizing violence.
No, I'm not normalizing. Like it's
It's
just something like that could
mentally.
something that could motivate us to even be more careful. Because we're a target. You understand? So like I couldn't report to police first of all. I feel like from that report of the SRT, I'm not a statistic because I didn't report to police because I knew if I go to police, they will arrest me instead of the perpetrators. You get? This I was just like, fine, I'll just talk to friends and family and I'll just take care of myself and just let it go. And that is wrong because I'm a human being. I'm a Ugandan. Yeah, I was violated, almost murdered. Yeah, or on grounds of perception or whatever they called me. So yeah, my humanity was despised at that moment. I was persecuted. Yeah. We're celebrating this week of trans awareness and remembering trans folks, but also somehow I thank God. Yeah. Because I'm not a statistic of death, at least. I know I was persecuted, but at least I was not killed. Because this year, maybe my portrait would be somewhere that Otita was murdered. You get? I survived, and that is, like, that trauma is there. I fear people, to be honest. Like, even just hearing anyone saying anything about homosexuals. Yeah, but it's...
Otita, you make there are some outstanding things that you've mentioned. You've mentioned passing, medical transitioning. but you've also mentioned disclosure and you've mentioned God. And I want to touch on the God bit because the way the Anti-Homosexuality Act was debated or not debated in Parliament and eventually, signed by the President, it was on the premise that they are doing God's job. Yeah. That religion has to erase this immoral act that is breeding in Ugandan society. Is it possible for a trans person and a non-binary person to be God-fearing, religious, Christian, Muslim?
Yes.
Arianna, you're shaking your head.
Yes,
so
I was actually. I come from a very religious family. Yes, but the thing is, I stopped going to church for these same things when they started using religion to attack my existence and wanting to erase my existence, my humanity. So I was like, no, God is not in church. Being queer does not take away your beliefs as a human being.
Your spirituality.
Spirituality. And that is why I feel like maybe God has blessed us more than these people were persecuting us, to be honest. Because we ask God for life all the time, because these people want to erase us. They want to kill everyone that is queer. We ask God for protection, and I think God is protecting us anyway.
Absolutely. And our ancestors.
And our ancestors also protecting us. So.
Personally, I feel like being religious is good, but I don't believe in that. I come from a background of Muslims. My entire family most of them are Muslims. I'm the only one who's locally a born again Christian.
Praise God.
Amen.
Praise God.
And I agree with Otita. I also don't go to church at all, because I feel like what they preach in church is not what the Bible says. No.
People pick and choose parts of the Bible.
Exactly, because you don't tell me that God said, the Bible says it has to be man and woman. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I just believe that God exists, but I don't know him. I've not seen him. And I'm spiritually close to my God when I'm alone. When I'm in a crowd of so many people, I can't even think, I can't even pray, I can't even say a thing. You get. So, believe a queer person can be so close to God and religious.
Ruby, you graduated from Wawa Abba.
Yes.
Do tell.
Yes, queer people can be very spiritual, and I agree with Otita, we're the most spiritual human beings on earth because of all the things that we go through every day, every second of our lives. We need to have faith in something to survive.
Indeed.
And I've served in church from childhood. I was raised in a very staunch Catholic home. I was an altar girl. I read the scriptures in church. I served, even in my adulthood, I did try to serve in church. But, and I keep saying this to some of my Christian friends who I meet sometimes and they're homophobe, I school them a little bit. As I'm also learning in different faith queer entities what it means to be inclusive. First and foremost, the first scripture in the Bible indicates that God is non-binary and we were created in God's image. There is no way around that. The fact that I'm created in God's image and the fact that God is non-binary. So if I stand up and say I'm non-binary and I'm in God's image, why are you trying to make it sound like what you're saying is the only... There's so many roads that lead to Rome. And also, if you sit and tell me the greatest commandments, love God with all your heart, and then love your neighbors, you love yourself. If you're loving yourself that much, would you let somebody treat you the way you're treating me?
Preach.
You know? Preach. So, these are things that people forget and then throw these stones but you're not doing it to yourselves, you know? And we talk of also forgiveness. I think the queer community is the most forgiving community in the world.
Yeah.
We've had ex-gays come back and we still embrace them. We've had you'll find a Christian shouting this today, a priest, and when he dies or when his child is sick, the queer people will be the same individuals fundraising to see that this human being gets support. So in my whole life, and I will say this, that queer people are the most kind people, are the most spiritual people, whether they believe in God or believe in another entity, because we do have queer people who believe in, the other entities, other beings. We are still the kindest and most forgiving human beings.
Yeah.
And I will say that repeatedly. And the people that we find in church who are homophobic, just go do research, check how they run their homes. One, they're the most abusive people in their homes. They are the most abusive people towards women, even in their workspaces. Homophobic people, and more so also the religious, because we have to differentiate what religion is, and then we have there are also people who are just in cults. And they're not even religious. They're just following a cult, where you find people going to a specific church because of a specific pastor. What he says is what they do.
The miracles.
And we saw a lot of
there.
this during the AHA, where someone would stand on the pulpit and say, you must kill them or you must do this. We had all these speeches.
And the commandments say, do not kill.
Do not kill. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. And they're leaving all this out. They're saying, God said this. But we've seen Jesus sitting with an adulterous woman and saving her life, a sex worker. Like, all these are very evident in the Bible, but someone picks something, interprets it in their own understanding, and then shares it to a congregation, and the congregation follows. That is not faith, that is not religion, that is a dumb cult, period.
Yeah. We've spoken about violence, we've spoken about some allies who have supported us. Just quickly, in terms of yes and no, is disclosure important? Is it important to disclose your identity or your sexuality?
Somehow, yes. But like right now, I
Okay,
think
there's
it's
no and yes, and I think those are fair.
Yeah.
But we'll arrange for us to have a full conversation around disclosure. Whether you should tell anyone your sexuality or identity. Because sometimes the argument is that, you're saying that non-binary and trans people or queer people are not getting treatment at the health center. How do they know that you're queer? How do they know that you're trans?
Just to put a statement on what you're saying, I was in a space in Yali, and that came up because we're only two queer people during our that class. And one of the Muslim individuals asked that, how do you expect me to know if you're not telling me? But the response that I gave was, if the workspace I'm coming to was inclusive, if the hospital I'm coming to is inclusive,
exactly.
You don't even need to ask me. The document I'm filling in will tell you everything. But because there is no inclusivity in these spaces, then I cannot disclose. Then it makes it difficult for me to disclose. So maybe the question should be, how can we get people to that point of being inclusive within workspaces, within service providing spaces, so that we can be able to disclose and get the right treatment, the right services that we're supposed to get.
Including justice and all that.
Yes.
As we, wind up, there are so many young people on TikTok, on X, Treble, and many other social media platforms where, they are coming out proud, loud, fancy, beautiful, and all that. What message do you have, as each of you has gone through the violence based on your identity? What message do you have for young people out there who maybe struggling with their identity. What message do you have to lawmakers, our parliamentarians, our government? And then what message do you have to the society at large? Because I assume you're all Ugandans, but even if you're not, you are living in the borders of Uganda, and you deserve to live happily, safely, and be able to access services without any question or any violence coming towards you for how you look or how eventually you identify by disclosure. And people should not be attacking any of us or anyone based on their own suspicion without knowledge. So what message would you like to put out there for young people? Maybe Arianna, message to young trans folk. Otita, message to society. And then Ruby, your message to lawmakers and our government. Okay.
My message to young folk, trans persons, most especially those that think that TikTok is now a platform for everyone to come out and expose what they feel comfortable with. They should be security conscious because TikTok is not safe for anyone, most especially the young trans people. It's not a platform where you wake up and just share anything like anyhow. Some years back, I used to think, social media is the platform for me to share anything. Maybe I can come out as trans and what. But now, after some years, I've realized that all the challenges that I'm facing every day came from social media.
The digital footprint.
Yes. Everything that I'm going through right now, all the depression, mental health problems, come from where started from. And they should stay in school.
Yes.
Because a few trans women are really educated. We need to stay in school and pursue everything that we want to achieve in this life.
But how do you stay in school when you cannot be yourself?
Well, I don't know.
But sort of hiding yourself for a purpose until you reach that goal, and then you can live your
To
life.
those who can, they should do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I am trying to summarize what message I would like to leave for our lawmakers and policy makers. First and foremost,
because we actually don't have. Anyway, go on.
So, what I would like to just let them know is, while you're pushing for these laws and these bills, you have children, you have grandchildren, or you will have grandchildren, and at any one time they will be affected by these same policies and laws that you're pushing for. And you will not be at that chair at that point. You have sisters, you have brothers, you have family members, even your own husbands will get persecuted under this same law. But this is a message like, let's have empathy at the end of the day. Even as we're pushing for these laws and bills, have some empathy. Because if you don't understand something, also ask. But while you're having that empathy, it kind of helps you see a future challenge that someone would be affected by a law that you're putting into place. And if you cannot have that kind of heart, then I'm very sorry, your children may have to go through much worse than we are going through, because we are now in a regime. As Ruby, I have a social circle that has protected me, that has, guarded me. But you can imagine a home where there is a minister or, let's just say a minister, an MP, and they have a child who is queer what they are going through. They're going through hell because they can't speak up. They can't. You'll see your children killing themselves, committing suicide. You'll see them drowning into depression, or even disowning you as their own parents. And just let's be mindful that whatever you're doing could affect not just the individuals that are existing with you right now, but even your great-grandchildren can carry this cross to their graves. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I think for the lawmakers, really, when you look at the way this particular AHA was passed, it was based on very high emotions,
Yes.
bullying, blackmail, that the legislators who were not able to stand. For me as a voter, I was so disappointed because people campaign like they have backbones. Then
Well,
they
listen.
get to the house and they can't stand and speak. As a person who was, in some of those corridors and outside that house and engaging members of parliament who wanted some knowledge and stuff, it was so disappointing to see that some, public thieves, they are mishandling our taxes. They are not doing what is meant to be done. And at that point, we were discussing the Mabati issue.
The Mabati issue.
And they diverted it to this issue. Like, has anyone even bothered to ask the Karamajong about those iron sheets, how they felt to be sort of sidelined and then make
Queer
issues an issue, like making their issue a non-issue? In my opinion, they should be rising up to say, you cannot sweep us under the rug and not, take this issue as an issue. But I understand that people get very emotional and so on. But also the parliamentarians need to do research. There was no
research
ounce or speck of research that they had to back up their reason for passing the law. Yeah.
But also, Pepe, I think to add to what you're saying, we need to have more queer people get into these spaces, maybe, because a lot of queer people are scared of getting into politics.
But there are many in politics.
They're there, but what are they doing?
People are everywhere.
What are they
Everywhere.
doing? Maybe we need to also start voting, and they should come to us and tell us what they're going to do there, so that when we give them our votes, you have to do what you've promised to do.
Well, Ruby, you and I might be brave and courageous to speak, despite the laws not protecting us. For politicians, they're politicians. Okay? So even those who know the right thing to do,
They get timid.
they look at, like the issue of disclosure. Because they've not disclosed, they're like, no one knows, so I can behave the way I want to behave.
Yeah.
I think in 2014, we got to a point where we almost released a list of people in the house who we know are queer, who are making our phones busy, wanting hookups and stuff while they're discussing a law to kill us. Where are you going to get the hookup if I'm dead? I guess they'll move on to the next one, right?
Yeah.
But Otita, to people out there, parents, the society, our neighbors, we've talked a lot about how harm comes to us from our immediate neighbors and so on. So what's your message?
Okay, for me, my message to society, I can say, is that first of all, we need to consider that Uganda is an African country. And in Africa, you don't belong, family is not blood, we belong to each other.
Yes.
You get, like, really, you can't persecute another person's child because of what you perceive them for, whatever, yeah? Because at the end of the day, you're supposed to also protect that child as your own. Understand? Like, if you don't know anything about someone, at least ask. before you go ahead and like violate them. So I am preaching empathy still, just treat people as human beings, not as animals. Because to be honest, even as queer folks, we cannot watch what they were saying, because mostly in parliament I heard them saying we're harassing children. Yeah, we can't also see someone, a rapist, whether they're heterosexual or queer, harassing a child. No, that is wrong. Me personally, I can't even report you to police. I'll deal with you. That's it. If I find you harassing a child, that is like you're destroying something like that. Someone who would have been someone better in future. So like we protect each other as society. That is it. Well, if I'm a transgender man and you've seen me maybe, trans or not trans, you've seen me misbehave. Yeah, it is okay to correct me, call me out, like just as a human being. My gender identity or sexual orientation has nothing to do with my humanity. I'm supposed to behave as human as possible. And obviously, society is the one that influences these. They're the ones that vote for these lawmakers, right?
Yeah.
They're the voters. So like really, you can't you cannot actually like condone what your legislator is like saying in parliament, like in a direction that is going to influence your mind to become maybe more or less of a human. You understand? Like you saw those guys were shouting in parliament, and that was what made society even more angry. Because when you talk about children, like they're seeing that a member of parliament saying, they have raped children in sorority. Where now imagine how people in sorority will react. Everybody protects children.
Yeah.
They get angry. So
although you wonder, there are very many cases and a rise in defilement of girls by men, right?
Yes.
The police statistics are really high. They keep going up every year.
Yes.
During COVID, it went absolutely high. By now, the government should be addressing those issues.
Exactly.
They haven't addressed those issues. And for them to make a whole law to try and protect the so-called boy child is quite quite absurd.
But also
from you, for the African society, the principle across Africa is Ubuntu.
Yes.
Yeah, it might be a Bantu term, but Ubuntu, where it means that you are because I am. I am because you are. Yeah. And I feel that, and I know for sure that principle works. It is a principle of empathy. It's a principle of seeing the next person as yourself and treating them the way you would want to be treated. In conclusion, I want to ask you, what is the best way to support non-binary and trans people and the entire community? But specifically, because a lot of violence goes towards trans and non-binary people, and on 20th November, we'll be commemorating, I think, 25 years of the Transgender Day of Remembrance. How would you want the public to support you? How would you want your sister, your parent, your employer, your lover even, because also lovers can be sometimes transphobic.
Sure.
Your bosses can be transphobic. They can be weird like the rest, because we are all part of the society that is brewing and breeding all this negativity towards a particular section of Ugandans or of people. So aside from using your right, the pronoun that, for instance, you've mentioned here, the name, the name that you choose for yourself, what more can people do to make you feel human and make you feel supported?
As I mentioned earlier, let's be more inclusive in our workspaces. I think that is a very important workspaces, because I think if the parliament was also inclusive within their workspace, they wouldn't even be passing such a law
Yeah.
One. We're seeing a lot of people living with HIV not getting refills because they're worried of what they will find there when they go to get a refill. Let's be more inclusive in workspaces, even with the documents that we put out, and let's research. If you don't understand something, online, like we have a pocket book we move with everywhere. Let's do
info.
research, just click in. And if it's something you don't understand or you're uncomfortable with, at least have respect, because you may not be someone who is having, a kind heart or you have empathy, but have the respect to acknowledge that this person is also a human being at the end of the day, just like you, and then move your way. Because we do have also those human beings who don't say anything, don't just mind their business, and at least fall into that caliber. Yeah.
But give me bulletins of what people can do.
So first, my dress code. Let's not, if I come dressed like this, don't look at my dress code, my brain. So I've been in these spaces where they indicate, a girl should come wearing heels and a dress.
Are you for real?
Oh, yes. Yeah. You remember when I was working at that building in town near Parliamentary Avenue, I was not allowed to dress the way I'm dressing now. I had to come putting on a dress and heels, and I had to wear a wig. They even told me to take out my dreads.
But there's no national dress code.
And it
Arianna?
started from the security lady who was checking. That's all I have to share.
How would you like to be supported?
I want to be accepted, welcomed, and loved in a space, in any space that I go to. I want to be seen as a woman who can change the world, a woman who's outspoken, a woman who can stand up and say something and you listen to me.
Utita, how do you want to be supported?
First of all, I would like someone to respect my pronouns. Like if I tell you I'm he, him, please don't call me with whatever you want. And then I can say maybe in employment, I think people should employers should maybe revise or amend their documents, recruitment documents, and at least include at least that part of the gender marker for trans folks, because they still keep saying, you see you're trans, but how are we going to know that you're trans? And where are you people? Because if one entity tries that, they can say we have employed this number of trans folks, and instead of putting just the female and the male, because I'm not a cis male, no, I'm a trans male. I'm not cisgender, I'm transgender. So I feel like that would help me feel the humanity and feel my existence is respected. And then for young folks, for trans folks, they should just really not out each other. Also the trans community has issues. People out each other. Understand? It can be unintentional or intentional. It can be on social media or whatever. So people should mind posting people and calling them he, she before someone has even come out. That can bring someone's security into you can say it can sabotage their security. That is for the community, just for everyone's safety. As a parent, it's just parents should try and I'll use my mama, try and be like my traditional mom who says there's that word in Karamojong that describes you. It means those people existed. My mom is sharp. It's you're my son, yes. If you call yourself transgender, I think it means this word. Don't you think so? I'm like, yes. And then she's like, but this word didn't just come now. It means those people were there. Because we found the language there. It means anciently they were there. And that's what they used to refer to them in communities. I feel like they should be really more understanding and love their children, because when you reject your child as a parent, you've failed as a parent. That is it. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. And shout out to all the parents, all the employers, everyone out there who is supportive, who is creating inclusive spaces, who is portraying trans and non-binary people in a positive light, because we are more than what you see. Our lives are very intersectional. We are we are sons, we are daughters, we are children, we are parents, we are doctors, we are engineers, we are social workers, we are psychologists, we are so many different things. We are black, we are white, we are all sorts of races, all sorts of tribes. In every tribe, there are trans people. In the among the Langi, there's Mudakodo, I think. I can't pronounce it very well. It's a Langi word, which basically capturing the history of how same-sex people would live together as, I don't want to say it, the so-called norm of man and wife, and they lived their lives very well. From the Madi tribe, we have people who existed who are trans and they were never persecuted. There are so many different and rich African history of transgender and non-binary people who are celebrated. In fact, people would come to them for fortune, for blessing and everything. And I thank my ancestors who paved the way for me to be able to be accepted within my family. And also for the courage to be able to live my life as I live it amidst all the violence that is there. And to other people who are out there who are facing these challenges, we have you at heart. And we also really ask that more media spaces like Queer Prism and other media spaces out there keep emulating and really shedding that light on positive transgender lives, because that's the only way that we'll be able to live our full lives and live them well and happy lives in this country. And also, productivity and development of the country. If the persecution continues, then that means that we are not able to fully live our full lives and to contribute to this country that we so much love.
Yes.
So much love. Thank you so much, Ruby. Thank you so much, Arianna. Thank you so much, Otita, for educating us today. I hope that people have picked a leaf or two and they will actually implement out there in support of transgender people. And to all our trans folk and non-binary folk who have lost their lives to horrible laws like this one in Uganda and across the world. We know that the United States is back, going back on a lot of positive laws. We stand in solidarity with every person across the globe who is facing violence. And for those who have lost their lives, we hold you in honor today and always for the pathway that you've created for us to be able to live courageously and to continue in your footpath. And happy commemoration of the Transgender Day.